awesome artists. We are going to be beginning part 1 of our If the Dinosaurs Came Back art lesson. So since we are only working on part 1 of the lesson, you do not need to submit this first part. You're going to do just like you've been doing with our last couple of lessons. You are going to save your artwork and hold on to it for next week when we complete the lesson. So again, you do not need to submit this first part. All right, so what are we going to be doing for this first part? We are going to be creating or drawing a cityscape. A cityscape, boys and girls, is exactly what you see here in this picture, minus the dinosaurs. But a cityscape is made up of lots and lots of different buildings, all right? Now, when we look at buildings, and I'm almost positive you've seen a building before because our school is a building, all right? Well, buildings come in different sizes and different shapes. Some of them are squared, some of them are rectangle, and some of them have just their own little unique shape, all right? So we're gonna start on our cityscape today. And we're even going to go in and add maybe some fun details to our cityscape. So maybe you can draw some cars, you can draw people, you can draw stop signs, all right? Okay. So what are you going to need for the lesson? You are going to need something to draw with, something to outline with. An eraser is always good to have. And then, of course, something to draw on. So I'm going to be using a blank white sheet of paper. All right? Well, the first thing to drawing our cityscape is we're going to be drawing our street. All right? And we're going to draw the street at the bottom of our paper. All right, now I don't want my street to be very, very wide because I want to have room for my buildings and my sky. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna turn my paper because I feel like that helps me out a little bit more in drawing my line down. All right, so I'm gonna start at the top and I'm gonna go about right here and just draw the line straight down as best I can. It doesn't have to be perfect. All right, so there is my street, and I'm gonna add some details. I'm gonna do that by adding some of these road lines that we have to help guide us on the road as we're driving, so we're not all driving like crazy maniacs, all right? And after that, I've got my street drawn. I'm gonna go ahead and start on my buildings, all right? Now, you do not have to draw your buildings just like my building. So like if I'm drawing a rectangle building, yours does not have to be a rectangle building, all right? You can do whatever you would like for your buildings, okay? So these first set of buildings that I'm gonna draw, I guess a row of buildings, okay? These buildings are gonna be my shorter or my smaller buildings, all right? They're not gonna be super tall, all right? So as you draw your buildings, okay, just remember that these buildings are smaller. All right, we are gonna draw our taller buildings behind these ones, all right? And you're gonna learn about overlapping because that's what we're going to do with our buildings, all right? So let's just keep that in mind that this first row of buildings are our shorter buildings, all right? So I'm gonna just start with my buildings. This one's gonna be a square shape. Okay, and I'm also not going to add windows yet or details. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So for now, boys and girls, let's just make our buildings, our shorter buildings, all right? I'm also not going to leave any spaces in between these buildings. They are right next to each other. This one's gonna have a triangle for a roof. Then maybe this one has a little arch, okay? All right, so I've got my first row of buildings, and now what I'm going to do is I'm gonna make some taller buildings behind these buildings, and that is called overlapping, boys and girls. That is when something is in front of or behind it, okay? So I'm gonna start making my taller buildings. And I'm not gonna go all the way up to the top of my paper. Okay, and then this one's also gonna have a roof on it. Okay, maybe this one is a really tall skyscraper. So it's really tall and skinny. Now, on these buildings that are the taller buildings, you can either have, you can either have spaces or not have spaces in between. They don't have to be touching. Another little arch, and maybe this one just has a fun little detail to it. Okay. All right. So I've got my buildings, and wow, they're a little slanted. Look at that. All right, it's whatever, right, boys and girls? Seamus G is not perfect. I make little accidents here and there, but that's all right. That's what makes our art and our drawings all unique and different. So I'm just gonna go with it, all right? I mean, we're gonna add dinosaurs later on, so, you know, anything is possible. All right, so now that I have my buildings drawn, I've got my city, my sidewalk or my street, down here. I cannot talk either today, boys and girls. Woo, I'm all over the place. All right, now I'm gonna grab my Sharpie and I'm going to begin outlining, all right? So you're going to go ahead and start to outline everything that you drew, okay? Not adding any details yet. All right, we're gonna talk about that in a moment. But what I am gonna do is I'm gonna turn these dashes into actual rectangles. All right, and guys, if I'm going too fast or if you need to catch up, you can always pause the video and catch up, all right? And I have this blank space right here, so I'm just gonna go in and add another little road mark. All right, so I finished with my sidewalk, and now I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna go in and outline my buildings. And I'm trying to straighten out some of my buildings that I did draw. And I can always go back and erase my pencil lines afterwards. I don't know if this is gonna help it, but that's okay. And as you can see, guys, I am turning my paper. That way it really helps me have more control and I can draw a little bit better as I'm turning the paper. Okay, so that might also help you out as well. Oops, I'll turn this one this way. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my pencil and I'm gonna just erase over some of these pencil lines that I have, since I was trying to straighten out some of my buildings. Ooh, camera, my phone is moving everywhere. Sorry, guys. Don't wanna make you guys sick while you're watching my lesson. Ooh, sorry. All right, guys, so I have finished outlining all of my buildings and my street. Now I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna add my windows. So the only reason why I didn't draw my windows in pencil first was because, oh my goodness, look how many buildings I have. I would have a ton of windows that I would have to draw in pencil first and then go over with Sharpie, and I don't want to bore you guys. So if you want to do them in pencil first and then go over it with Sharpie, that is completely fine. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna go in and add some windows. I can even add some doors to my buildings if I would like. All right, I'm gonna maybe give this building 2 separate doors because, you know, some buildings have different entrances. All right. Now, thinking about buildings, they don't all look the same. Their windows are not all the same either. So you do not have to give your windows all the same shape if you don't want to. If you want to make them different, go for it. All right. Let's see, maybe this building has some tall rectangle windows. So boys and girls, what you're doing right now is you're just going in and adding some windows to your buildings. Okay, think of them being a little different from each other. Maybe there's a big window right here. I can go in and add this little design shape right there. All right. So let's talk about these buildings that are the taller buildings behind these ones. All right. So these buildings, all right, we don't see the bottom of these buildings. So as you're making your windows, you would stop where this building begins. All right, because we know, we're using our imagination, and we know that because this building is in front of this one, it's overlapping it, we don't see all of the doors and the windows at the bottom of these buildings. All right, so you don't have to make windows at the bottom of these because we don't see them. All right. All right, so then let's see, what other fun details could I add? Maybe there's a ladder connecting from this building to this one, right? Just somehow maybe there is. We're gonna use our imagination, have fun with it. All right. And now what we can talk about also is the sky. I don't have too much room in mine, but you might have more room for your sky. So be thinking about, is it daytime? Is it nighttime? All right. And you can add some details. All right. So, guess I could have made my sun go more that way, but all right. And let's see, maybe I can make some clouds. Whoop. What else could you add? And I don't see the rest of this cloud because this building is overlapping that cloud. So I don't see the rest of that cloud. And think about what other fun details you could add to your sky. What's going on in your sky? Are there birds flying? Is it a storm? Is it raining? Is there thunder going on? Maybe did it just get done raining? Is there a rainbow going on? Is there an airplane flying? Okay, think of all the different things, the different details you could add here, all right? And then even down here in your street, could you draw people? Could you draw cars? Could you draw a bus? Could you make a stop sign? There are so many different things you could draw, okay? I want you to be creative and think of the details that you can add to your cityscape, okay? So boys and girls, this is all you're going to do for today. For this week, for this part of the lesson, you are just going to draw your cityscape. Okay, if you want, you can color your cityscape, but you do not have to. You can leave it black and white if you would like. Again, totally up to you. All right. So again, hold on to your artwork for next week when we complete the lesson, and I will go over what we are going to do next week. The only thing I ask is that you do not draw any dinosaurs. hold off on that part. I know it's tempting because you want to draw your dinosaurs, but please do not draw your dinosaurs yet. We are actually going to do that next week, and we're not going to draw our dinosaurs on this paper, all right? So I'll talk more about that next week. So again, just hold off on those dinosaurs, all right? Okay, guys, have fun, and I will see you next week. Bye.